Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 402 based on novel. So let's start. Time passed. The spring breeze blew across the land. Everything revived as the grass green and the fragrances filled the air. Even the sky was an everlasting blue. Wang Lin awakened from his cultivation several months after he comprehended the fusion. Using the fusion Dao spell, Wang Lin's spatial bending fused with the world and with himself. He had also taken teleportation and the overlapping of space to push spatial bending from one variation to the next. The moment he opened his eyes, clouds moved through his eyes. His eyes also contained the blue sky and the stars themselves. The flaw of the spatial bending was the instability before merging with the world that would cause a change to the origin energy and interrupt the spell. As Wang Lin continued to fuse it, he slowly made up for that flaw. He was using his body as the world to trigger spatial bending to merge with the world. As long as his body remained unchanging, then even if the origin energy outside was distorted, it wouldn't affect his usage of spatial bending. This change in the spell was something Wang Lin prepared especially for himself. He raised his right hand and waved. The space around the mountain began to distort and ripples spread. Even sunlight collapsed when it reached here. If it was in the past, he wouldn't have been able to use spatial bending in this situation, but now Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he took a step forward. In an instant, his figure seemed to turn transparent and disappeared. A moment later, Wang Lin appeared where he disappeared. His eyes revealed joy and then he sat down once more. He waved his sleeves and the chaotic energy dissipated. Everything returned to normal and the light no longer collapsed. This spell has reached a small completion, but there are still some imperfections. Merging it with my body fixed a few flaws, but now it consumes my own origin energy. I can cast it a dozen times or so, but afterward I need to quickly recover my origin energy. Although this is the case, it is still extremely practical. There are very few people who can prevent me from using this spell. Wang Lin muttered to himself as he looked up at the sky. His gaze seemed to penetrate through the sky to outside of the Blue Silk clan. After some time, Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. The stop spell had accompanied him for most of this life, and by Fan's 6 spells had saved him several times. Along with his 2 self-created spells, there were also Dao Master Blue Dream's Heaven Reversal Stamp and Light and Shadow Shield. With the help of Dao Master Blue Dream, Call the Wind and Summon the Rain have been fused into their own world that can attack and defend. But this is just the fusion of 2 spells. If I can fuse Magic Arsenal into it, its power, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and his heart pounded. He raised his right hand and pointed at the sky. Wang Lin's eyes released a strange light, and the vortex formed by the fusion of Call the Wind and Summon the Rain appeared. This vortex sphere wasn't big, but if any cultivator saw this, they would feel like there was a world within it. The vortex sphere was like a mouth that would begin to devour everything after it appeared. Once it was activated, it would become its own world. Dao Master Blue Dream had helped Wang Lin create this. It was perfect without any flaws and contained great power. Magic Arsenal. Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out the celestial sealing stamp. A thunderous roar echoed and Wang Lin waved his sleeves. There was a flash of light and countless battle souls appeared. Waves of mournful roars echoed across the sky. The ferocious battle souls all gave off a fierce aura. Many of these souls were people from the ancient star system. Aside from the hundreds of cultivators outside the sealed realm formation, there was a large number of Moon Clan members and everyone else Wang Lin had devoured on the way. The ancient star system cultivators all had a mark flashing between their eyebrows. Now that they all appeared as battle souls, it was a shocking scene for anyone to look at. Staring at all the people killed by him over the past 2,000 years, Wang Lin raised his left hand and quickly formed seals that landed on each soul. The celestial sealing stamp began flashing rapidly and began fusing with the vortex sphere. At first, the fusion was fine, but a moment later, a great sense of rejection arose. It was like water and fire and couldn't be fused at all. Wang Lin frowned and spat out a mouthful of origin soul essence, then his divine sense surrounded the vortex sphere and celestial sealing stamp, forcing them to fuse. With his origin soul essence and divine sense, the rejection between the vortex sphere and celestial sealing stamp was suppressed and the two began to fuse. Wang Lin continued to stare at the change. Time continued to pass and the celestial sealing stamp gradually fused with the vortex sphere. Just as Wang Lin started to relax, his expression changed greatly. He didn't hesitate to retreat and started to wave his hand, forming countless layers of protection. In an instant, the sphere fused with the celestial sealing stamp flashed, giving off a destructive aura, then it suddenly exploded. The moment it exploded, Wang Lin had already retreated far away. He waved his sleeves and used all his power to suppress the explosion of this vortex. At the same time, he took the collapsing sphere and directly used spatial bending to appear in an area of space near the edge of the Blue Silk Clan. The moment he reappeared, the collapse of the vortex sphere couldn't be stopped anymore. It turned into a storm, and its rumble echoed across the entire star domain. The sound waves and shockwaves from the explosion blew on Wang Lin's body and formed an unimaginable destructive force. A sense of life and death flooded Wang Lin's mind. He didn't hesitate to wave his hand, causing endless light to gather from all directions. A giant light shadow appeared around Wang Lin's body. The destructive aura arrived and collided with the light shadow around him. Thunderous rumbles echoed, and the impact was heaven-shaking. At this moment, the destructive aura rushed at Wang Lin. However, when it encountered the light shadow around him, the light shadow gave off a powerful glow and unexpectedly reflected the force. The reflection and refraction of light. Due to this reflection force, the destructive force that arrived was redirected into the endless space, out of the Blue Silk Clan. Thunderous rumbles continued to echo, and it took 15 minutes before it finally dissipated. The light shadow disappeared and Wang Lin revealed a wry smile. Before him, the vortex sphere and the celestial sealing stamp had already separated, emitting a ghostly glow. This fusion is a bit too dangerous. Wang Lin smiled even more wry. He didn't expect a forced fusion to create such a shocking impact. If he'd just give up now, it would be a pity. Wang Lin stared at the vortex sphere with reluctance in his eyes. A moment later, his eyes lit up and he swallowed the celestial sealing stamp. Then his right hand reached out. The vortex sphere flew into his right hand and with a squeeze it disappeared. At the same time, ghostly light flashed around Wang Lin and surrounded his body. With a thought, the light surged and spread out like crazy with him as the center. In the blink of an eye, it had spread out 10,000 feet. Everything within 10,000 feet seemed to be separated from the outside, as if it was another world. This was, in fact, what happened. Call the wind had formed the sky and summon the rain had formed the earth to create its own world. There was no origin energy within this 10,000 feet area, only Wang Lin's will. Within these 10,000 feet, he was the lord of this world. Since I can't fuse it by force, then I'll try a different method. Inside the 10,000 feet world, Wang Lin opened his mouth and the celestial sealing stamp flew out. The moment the celestial sealing stamp came out, there was a powerful rejection force that was unexpectedly as strong as the resisting force from the Blue Mountain. Under this earth-shattering rejection force, popping sounds echoed as if the celestial sealing stamp couldn't withstand it anymore. And an unexpected crack appeared on it. This caused a hint of hesitation in Wang Lin's eyes. Just as he hesitated, even more cracks appeared, and the countless souls inside let out mournful screams as if they were forcing the end of the world. This celestial sealing stamp was composed of a thunder celestial realm fragment and had been refined by divine retribution, so it was almost indestructible. However, under this rejection force, cracks appeared on it and there were even signs of it collapsing. This shocked Wang Lin greatly. He clearly felt like this rejection force that causing the celestial sealing stamp to collapse wasn't too strong, but there seemed to be some kind of limitation. This limitation prevented the celestial sealing stamp from existing here. Much less fuse. The call the wind and summon the rain world contain my will, and the celestial sealing stamp also contain my will, but the two can't fuse. I don't believe it. Wang Lin's gaze was firm, and he didn't hesitate to cause the world to shrink. Thunderous rumbles quickly echoed. As the world shrank, even more cracks appeared on the celestial sealing stamp until it collapsed into countless pieces. The countless restrictions inside scattered into this world and unexpectedly became part of the world as the world shrank. What shocked Wang Lin even more was that the countless battle souls of the people he had killed scattered into the countless fragments. The 10,000-foot realm shrank into Wang Lin's body, but Wang Lin remained stunned, staring at space. After a long time, he recovered. He had a strange expression on his face, and there was a faint hint of disbelief mixed in. While pondering, his body flickered and he disappeared. He reappeared on the mountain and sat down. He was dumbfounded for a while and still found what had happened difficult to believe. After 15 minutes, Wang Lin closed his eyes and his mind went into his body. Above his origin soul floated a vortex sphere, and inside it was the rain and wind world. Although the wind and rain world only covered 10,000 feet when it was outside his body, it was boundless inside his body. At this moment, there were many continents floating inside this realm, and they were all formed by the collapsed celestial sealing stamp. There were battle souls on these continents of many sizes. These souls didn't let out mournful cries, they only sat there. Milky white auras came from the tops of their heads and was absorbed by the realm. At the same time, these auras went straight into Wang Lin's mind toward his 5 essences. Wang Lin's 5 essences were like plants in spring as the milky white auras surrounded them, and they give off a strong sense of vitality. This is, Wang Lin was still in shock. It was because he recognized this milky white aura that the shock was even more intense. It was as if a bolt of thunder was echoing in his mind. Wang Lin wasn't unfamiliar with this aura. When the ancient demon statue in the demon spirit land was worshipped by 13 of them, this aura was also present. In the Cloud Sea, in the battle against Daoist Water, the last spell Daoist Water used also contained this aura. The conversation with the Lord of the Sealed Realm and Tao Master Blue Dream all pointed to the key in becoming a third-step cultivator, Joss Flames. Wang Lin didn't understand what Joss Flames were or how they were created. However, when he fused the wind and rain world with the celestial sealing stamp, this scene unfolded, which just confused him more. These battle souls were all the people he had killed, but now they had become disciples that provided him with Joss Flames. This was Wang Lin's fortune, the Lord of the Sealed Realm's legacy, and an almost non-reproducible mutation. Even Tao Master Blue Dream wouldn't have thought that teaching Wang Lin the fusion Tao spell would create such a change. The celestial sealing stamp was formed by a fragment of the Thunder Celestial Realm. The Thunder Celestial Realm was created countless years ago by the Lord of the Sealed Realm to prevent the realm sealing formation from absorbing the inner realm's Joss Flames so that Joss Flames could appear in the inner realm. Although the 4 celestial realms were destroyed, they were the best materials for producing Joss Flames. However, if this was it, it wouldn't be enough, but this fragment had also experienced divine retribution. It was as if heaven itself had refined this fragment into a treasure for Wang Lin. The thing that allowed Joss Flames to be born was refined once again by the divine retribution. Wang Lin had inadvertently taken this object to use for magic arsenal. Using his life and death domain, he had created 18 layers of hell that absorbed all the souls of the people he had killed so they couldn't enter the reincarnation cycle. As time went on, the power to create Joss Flames from the fragments filled these 18 layers of hell. However, without an opportunity for it to activate, this power would slowly dissipate. Wang Lin would never have found any abnormality, as these battle souls were merely surrounded with the power to create Joss Flames and didn't release any. This opportunity came when Tao Master Blue Dream fused called the wind and summoned the rain into a world. It was like giving root to a rootless plant. Then Wang Lin attempted to fuse Magic Arsenal and the wind and rain world. This allowed this change, this opportunity, to appear. Although there were many battle souls and the Joss Flames were very weak, far weaker than Daoist Water's 2 billion disciples, but this was real Joss Flame. The key to reaching the 3rd step and a Tao treasure that 3rd step cultivators scrambled for. Wang Lin's expression was very strange. He opened his eyes and silently pondered for a bit before throwing it to the back of his mind. After all, there was still the danger of the woman in white outside the Blue Silk clan. Even though he had inadvertently made this treasure, if it didn't help him resolve the crisis from that woman, it was useless. His eyes lit up and his right hand reached forward. A storage space crack appeared and a huge finger bone flew out. As it floated in the air, it looked like a continent. The ancient god finger bone was like a cultivation planet. Although this was only half of the original finger bone, its aura was extremely dense. Wang Lin clearly felt this aura from below it. The ancient aura inside the finger was very strong, to the point of almost becoming corporeal, but it couldn't be absorbed. There was a sliver of wool inside that wouldn't allow anyone to devour it. Staring at the half of the finger bone, Wang Lin's ancient god stars appeared and rotated slowly. He attempted to absorb but still failed in the end. Tuo Sen used an extremely powerful spell to allow his stars to devour the finger. He can even devour third-step cultivators to strengthen his stars. However, there is a wool inside this ancient god aura, so it would certainly be difficult for him to devour it. However, it doesn't mean I have no way of absorbing it. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he raised his right hand and reached for his storage space once more. There was a flash of light and the soul lasher flew out with the Moon Clan white-haired old man's origin soul, arriving before Wang Lin. The white-haired old man's eyes were closed. The crescent moon mark between his eyebrows flashed dimly, resisting the soul lasher. Since the Moon Clan possessed the ancient god finger bone, they must have some method of using it. Wang Lin's gaze fell on the white-haired old man's origin soul. This person's cultivation level was extremely high, almost comparable to that of the Azure Dragon Divine Emperor, almost at the fourth heaven's blight. If Wang Lin had met him long ago, he wouldn't have been his match. However, this person was obviously no match for Tuo Sen's powerful attacks and was eventually seriously injured by Tuo Senator. Then, when the finger bone was split in half, his body collapsed due to the shockwave of ancient god aura. Even his origin soul was seriously injured, which gave Wang Lin the chance to capture him. However, this old man was extremely powerful, and his origin soul had turned corporeal, like a real body. If not for the soul lasher having a fatal effect against origin souls, Wang Lin wouldn't have been able to seal him. Staring at the white-haired old man's origin soul, Wang Lin's hands formed a seal and pointed. The soul lasher immediately emitted a dark gold glow and shrank. The old man's origin soul trembled and his face revealed pain. He opened his eyes and coldly looked at Wang Lin. "You're merely a 6-star ancient god. My Moon Clan has killed a lot like you. Even though you have captured this old man's origin soul, what can you do? This old man's origin soul has already turned corporeal and can't be die or be destroyed." The old man grinned and closed his eyes. He stopped paying attention to Wang Lin and tried to use his origin energy. However, thanks to the soul lasher, everything was sealed. Wang Lin didn't speak and waved his right hand. There was a flash of bloodlight and the blood sword appeared. He mercilessly stabbed the old man's origin soul with the blood sword. The blood sword directly penetrated old man's origin soul, and he let out a miserable scream. He suddenly opened his eyes and stared at Wang Lin. As the old man screamed, Wang Lin raised the blood sword and cut open the old man's origin soul. Large amounts of origin soul essence was released, and Wang Lin devoured it. "I can't kill you? A member of the slave clan dares to be so arrogant." Wang Lin's voice was cold, and he waved the blood sword in his hand once more, cutting the old man's origin soul. The old man screamed even more miserably and his body trembled. He stared at the blood sword in Wang Lin's hand and fear filled his eyes. "This? What kind of sword is this?" Wang Lin didn't answer the old man's question. His expression was indifferent as he waved the blood sword in his hand toward the old man's origin soul. The old man's screams gradually became more faint as time went on. He vaguely had a guess of Wang Lin's intentions, and he began to panic. Wang Lin wasn't going to kill him, but continue to weaken him. With the soul slasher, he couldn't even recover. He could only look on in fear as his origin soul essence leaked out. He couldn't even self-destruct. After several hours, the old man was weakened to a limit. All Tehe origin energy in his body had leaked out and wounds covered his origin soul. The blood sword also contained a suction force that took some of his vitality every time it cut. Not only was this painful, but he was now dying. Just at this moment, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. As he withdrew the blood sword, His right hand pressed down on the old man's origin soul. His divine sense rushed out and he began to search the old man's soul. The old man's previously weak screams became louder. His body trembled and he began to resist like crazy. However, the moment he started to resist, Wang Lin waved his right hand and the blood sword appeared again. It directly penetrated the old man's origin soul. The old man's body trembled greatly and his resistance collapsed. His eyes became dull and his body became transparent, as if he could collapse at any moment. After a long time, Wang Lin raised his right hand and his expression became extremely serious. The white-haired old man's origin soul was now completely transparent and started to slowly dissipate. However, as he dissipated, there was a flash of bloodlight as the blood sword pierced through his head and destroyed him completely. The moment he died, the white-haired old man's soul appeared on a continent inside the wind and rain realm. He sat there and gave off a shocking amount of milky white aura. The Moon Clan is extremely large. The group Sen and I destroyed was merely a branch. In the ancient star system, the Moon Clan still has 3 more branches. In the main branch, there is an ancestor of the Moon Clan. That person is a third-step cultivator. This old man had never seen the sovereign in his life. He only knew that a long time ago, the sovereign fled from the inner realm seriously injured and has been healing in a mysterious place. Combined with the words of Tao Master Blue Dream, the sovereign being injured by a roar of something in the inner realm and then escaping in panic is credible. The sovereign is in closed-door cultivation due to his injuries. I just don't know how much he has recovered. Wang Lin's eyes turned cold and he looked at the sky. It is time to leave. That woman in white must still be waiting there. The ancient god-slave clan, the Moon Clan. When the Moon Clan betrayed the ancient gods, they had help from a mysterious group of people. These people's spells were extremely shocking and completely different from that of the people of the ancient star system. They were also very adept at using seals. Only thanks to their help did the Moon Clan gain the confidence and will to betray the ancient gods. However, even today, the Moon Clan hadn't been able to guess the identity of that mysterious group of cultivators. Not even the Moon Clan's third-step ancestor knew much. The rumor was that the mysterious cultivators that suddenly appeared seemed to have made deals with many of the clans but didn't have much relation with the ancient imperial concubines. These people had given the Moon Clan a strange spell that allowed them to absorb the power of the ancient gods. Wang Lin began to ponder. He had searched the old man's memory and obtained this spell, but it wasn't complete. This spell was called Noble Spirit Spell. Not everyone could cultivate this spell, and it needed something called spirit seeds. The mysterious people had left some spirit seeds in the bodies of the Moon Clan's people. They were like parasites that grew inside the members of the Moon Clan. The Moon Clan used this noble spirit spell to devour the ancient gods that died during the war. They used this to develop their clan into one of the ancient star system's great clans. While pondering, Wang Lin's expression became gloomy. The more he learned, the more he felt like it was strange. It was as if a layer of fog had covered the world. If he couldn't lift this fog, he wouldn't be able to see everything. His eyes lit up and he waved his right hand, putting away the giant ancient god finger into his storage space. After sorting his things, he looked at the earth and took a step. He left the planet and appeared in space. The stars were bright as Wang Lin floated in space and recalled the strange scene of the woman in white. However, there had been a speculation in his mind. After a long time, Wang Lin suppressed the speculation. He silently looked at the direction of Mount Blue. He seemed to vaguely see Li Qianmai and Tao Master Blue Dream. He revealed a complicated gaze before letting out a sigh. Then he turned into a ray of light and flew toward the edge of the Blue Silk Clan. Before he left the Blue Silk Clan, ripples appeared under Wang Lin's feet and he merged with the world, disappearing without a trace. The ripples spread out very far and gradually disappeared from the star domain. Wang Lin left. The moment he left, on Mount Blue, Tao Master Blue Dream was still playing the zither and didn't raise his head. Li Qianmai silently cultivated as if she hadn't noticed anything. Wang Lin used spatial bending to merge with the world, and after a few breaths of time, ripples appeared somewhere in the ancient star system. Distortion came from the ripple as if a figure was about to appear. There was a woman in white floating eerily in the void outside the ripples. It was unknown when the woman had appeared. It was as if she was outside the Blue Silk Clan just the breath before, and on the next breath she was here. She calmly looked at the ripples, waiting for the figure inside. However, just at this moment, the ripples suddenly changed and the figure that was about to come out seemed to take another step. In an instant, the ripples intensified and spread out until they got weaker and weaker, to the point where they disappeared. This was the second time the woman's eyes had revealed a strange light. She silently looked at where the ripples disappeared and then her body gradually turned to nothing. In another part of the ancient star system, the woman in white appeared. She was like a prophet. The moment she appeared, ripples echoed before her. However, just like before, the moment the ripples appeared, they violently trembled. However, this time she raised her right hand and waved. The ripples were silently chopped down the middle and then shattered. The moment they shattered, the origin energy within this aura surged like a storm and formed a giant vortex tens of thousands of feet wide. All the origin energy was sucked in, and all teleportation spells would be useless before this vortex. The moment the ripples shattered and the vortex appeared, Wang Lin's figure appeared from the void. His 5 essences were hidden in his eyes, allowing him to see the woman in white inside the vortex. Your Excellency prevented me from leaving several times. What is your intention? Wang Lin's voice was flat and calm. The woman didn't speak. She raised her right hand and pointed toward Wang Lin. With this point, the vortex in the void rotated even faster, reaching a limit, and flew toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin felt like he was in a quagmire and couldn't break free from the vortex. He waved his right hand and 2 deer phantoms appeared between his fingers. 10 million sword shadows suddenly broke free, creating a powerful force that swept the surrounding vortex. Thunderous rumbles echoed and the vortex paused for a moment under the impact of the sword shadows. Wang Lin quickly retreated and was about to leave the vortex. The woman in white looked calmly at Wang Lin, who was rapidly retreating, and pointed forward once more. With this, a giant phantom hand appeared behind Wang Lin. The hand looked like it was made of jade and mercilessly reached toward Wang Lin. The giant hand appeared too suddenly and was very fast. It grabbed Wang Lin almost a moment after it appeared, and it held on tight. At the same time, the woman closed in and crossed the vortex. In an instant, she arrived before Wang Lin. There was less than 5 feet between before the two of them. All of his happened in a flash, fast beyond belief. It was as if Wang Lin had no power to fight back against her. Wang Lin didn't struggle, allowing the hand to grab him. He stared at the blurry woman in white before him and said, "Who the hell are you?" The woman in white looked at Wang Lin and spoke for the first time. Blue concubine, Lu Lan, her voice was very pleasant and carried with it a strange charm. One of the 8 ancient imperial concubines. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. The woman in white nodded and then walked forward until she was standing less than 7 inches from Wang Lin. There seemed to be a faint fragrance coming from her body that entered Wang Lin's nose, but he didn't smell anything. "I originally didn't want to absorb your divinity, but since you can see me, I can no longer wait." The woman in white opened her mouth no less than 7 inches away from Wang Lin. They were almost face to face and she was no longer a blur, so her appearance clearly appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. The moment Wang Lin clearly saw her appearance, his pupils shrank. Thunder rumbled in his mind and he was dazed for a moment. The woman's face was Li Muwen's. The moment Wang Lin entered a daze and his mind was shaken, the woman's lip trembled. She exhaled and then gently inhaled. As she inhaled, the ancient god stars appeared between Wang Lin's eyebrows and rotated rapidly. Faint, golden smoke came out of the stars. The woman's originally calm expression suddenly revealed excitement and greed. The golden smoke was about to be inhaled into her mouth. However, just at this moment, the daze in Wang Lin's eyes disappeared and was replaced with clarity. World? A world appeared like the cold wind, and a flash came from Wang Lin's body. A black light spread out from his body. The wind and rain world that contained Wang Lin's Joss flames erupted. The woman in white was too close to Wang Lin. As the ghostly light flashed, the wind and rain world suddenly expanded to 10,000 feet. The woman couldn't help but be pushed back by the wind and rain world. Her expression suddenly changed. At the same time, the golden smoke suddenly contracted the moment the wind and rain world expanded. None of it was inhaled by the woman, and it all returned back into his ancient god stars. There was a flash of monstrous bloodlight as the blood sword flew around Wang Lin. It pierced the jade hand holding Wang Lin. The hand collapsed and Wang Lin broke free. Everything that had just happened was part of Wang Lin's plan. He wanted to know the woman's identity and what her purpose was. Only after knowing all of this could he calmly confront her. More importantly, he had taken this risk to confirm a speculation he had about this woman from the moment he first saw her. Although the woman in white was pushed 10,000 feet away by wind and rain world, there was a flash of coldness in her eyes. She waved her right hand and a giant spatial crack appeared in the void. This giant spatial crack looked like it would devour everything in its path, and it charged at Wang Lin. She also stepped forward. Wang Lin sneered as the world around him shrank until it formed a protective barrier 100 feet around him. At the same time, he raised his right finger and coldly said, "If you had come with your original body, I'd be no match, but this mere avatar can't deceive my eyes." When Wang Lin spoke, the woman's expression changed greatly. She never would have thought that he would be able to see through the fact that she was only an avatar. The woman in white closed in as she said, "It must be Tao Master Blue Dream who told you." Heaven reversal stamp. Wang Lin's right hand immediately slammed down. The world in Wang Lin's pupils turned and the world outside quickly changed with it. This video will end here.